Hey guys, James here, and today I'm going to talk about a theory that I have. It's something a little nerdy. I call it gun utility categories. And I'm going to start off here with some SWAT gameplay on Carrier, and depending on how long I talk for, I might switch to some other assault rifles. I'll try to keep it mainly assault rifle in the gameplay, because that is what the main point of this is, my gun utility categories. It mainly revolves around the assault rifles. The light machine guns and submachine guns don't really fit into it as well. I'll explain that a little bit more later. Now, before I get too much into this, let me explain that this is something extremely nerdy. This is several levels deep into the COD nerddom scale. So this isn't something that most people have thought of. So if you're out there listening to this, you haven't thought of it, that's completely fine. Don't worry, you're not weird. I'm the one that's weird. Without putting it off any longer, the first category of assault rifles are called the Slayers. The Slayers in this game are the AN-94, the FAL, the M8A1, and sort of a tweener, but one that I definitely put in here is the M27. Now, just for reference, so that you can kind of get an idea of what these would have been on a past game, in Modern Warfare 3, the Slayers, the main two, were the ACR and the Type 20. Sorry, not the Type 25, the Type 95. What are the Slayers? What do I mean by that? Well, basically, what the Slayers are is they're the guns that are supposed to be a little bit better. They're the guns that an average player picks up, and they do better with them than they do with the other assault rifles. Now, every game has these. Even if you look to a game like Battlefield 3, they have this in their assault rifles. They have the M16A3 is a lot better than most of the other guns, and there's other ones that are up there as well. There are guns that are purposely better than others. Now, something I'll get into a little bit later about at least the first three of these that I named is that they are a little bit more skillful. And by skillful, I mean they're not the same way that, say, the ACR was in Modern Warfare 3, where a terrible player picks it up. If you're using a worse gun, it's hard to compete with them. So you can still beat them even if you're not using the same level of assault rifle. So now I'll move into the second group of assault rifles, and these are called the movers. There are really two that perfectly fit this, and then there's a third that I'll explain. It semi-fits, but the main two are the Type 25 and the MTAR. Now, what I mean by a mover here is these aren't the ones that you want to get into any real rangy engagement with. Pretty much any other assault rifle, you can still win a long-range gun battle with it, but you don't want to be getting into that with the Type 25 or the MTAR. Now, the third gun that I put in this category, it almost belongs in its own category, but it's the Scar H. Now, the way the Scar H is different is that I would really call it a heavy mover. You don't want to get into those super long-range engagements. That's why it fits into this category, but it still is more of a stationary gun. It's not something that you want to move around with. It doesn't have that same fire rate, although it does drop people very quickly, just like the other two. There are a lot of similarities in how they work, but they are a little bit different in the way that they get to that same end result. Now, another major plus about the movers category is obviously that you can move with these. These aren't guns that you need to be stationary to use. You can play the objective a lot better, and they're great for rushing the objective. The Type 25 with its fire rate, it's great for really rushing the objective. But these aren't the best guns all around. Obviously, the Slayers, like I mentioned, they are the better overall category, but the movers still have a great place in the game. And just to go old school again and give an example, the two biggest ones from Modern Warfare 3 were the G36C and the FAD. They weren't quite like the ACR, but they were great if you really wanted to get in there and play the objective, have something that is maybe a little bit better at close range. Finally, the last group of assault rifles are the range assault rifles. There's only two in this game, and this is usually the lowest in number in any Call of Duty game, and it's the SWAT 5.56 and the SMR. Those are the two range assault rifles in Black Ops 2. From Modern Warfare 3, the MK14 was really the only one that was in this category. The M16 had a little bit of an argument for it too. But anyway, the SWAT and the SMR, those are the two in Black Ops 2. And range assault rifle, it's pretty straightforward. These are the guns that you want to slap an ACOG on it, and you want to take out some snipers, you want to take out some guys head glitching behind a barrel. These are the guns you want. You want to take people on at long range, and while obviously with certain attachments, obviously if you put select fire on these, they are closer to the movers or slayers. But with more standard attachments on these, they are purely based for rangy gunfights. So now I'll explain a little bit of what I was talking about in the beginning about some of the other gun classes. Before I do that, the first thing I want to mention is that in any game, to me, the movers, they are that middle category. They're the ones that really determine whether the game is top-heavy with the guns, meaning a game sort of like Black Ops 1 where you use the FAMAS or its little brothers, or is it more of a balanced game? And I know some people will disagree with me on this, but Modern Warfare 3 had a better balance in the assault rifles, and Black Ops 2 does as well. So really the movers are what determines whether the gun balance is good or bad in a game. If you expand on that and think about all the guns in the game, really the assault rifles are that middle category as well. The submachine guns and shotguns, they're the ones that are the rushers. They, move forward, they go in close-range gunfights. I guess you could call those the slayers if I wanted to use the same three categories, but the way that I described that, it's not really the same. They are on one end of the spectrum. Then the light machine guns and the sniper rifles, they are the range weapons. They're on the other side. For the purposes of this, I'll just consider real sniping and just pretend that quickscopers are using a shotgun instead. The assault rifles are in the middle of these other four gun classes. They're the ones that you use when you don't really know what to use, I guess. That's the way I've always thought of it. My standard has sort of been an assault rifle. I've always been more of an assault rifle player, and I think that assault rifles really are the group that make the game go around. If the group of assault rifles are balanced, there's a large variety of them, I think that helps out with the gun balance and people's perception of the gun balance and the game a lot more than if, say, there were a bunch of different submachine guns, or the light machine guns acted a little bit differently, or something like that. The assault rifles, now maybe it's just my bias being an assault rifle player, but I just feel like the assault rifles are the main group of guns. There's usually more assault rifles in the game than there are any other type of weapon. In this game there are, 9 assault rifles, and there are a lot less submachine guns. There's usually 5 or 6 in most Call of Duty games. And so now I want to talk about a couple of the issues that I have with my gun utility in Black Ops 2. Now, the first thing is that I don't really see as much variation within the classes. Obviously the Slayers are a very wide variety, but my main point again is the movers. The Type 25 and the MTAR, the only real difference between them is the fire rate, and other than that they behave almost exactly the same. Even the Scar H, with the way that it makes up for some of the lack of fire rate by having a lot more damage, though really they all work almost the exact same way. And only being 3 of them, that really hurts the game in my opinion. Just looking back at Modern Warfare 3 again, there were a multitude of these movers. I mentioned the G36C and the FAD. There's so many more guns that you can put into that category. Just starting off with the heavy movers, you'd have guns like the AK-47 and the CM901. They perfectly fit into that category the same way that the Scar H does. Of course, the more light moving ones, really like the Type 25 and MTAR, were the FAD and the G36C. With those, and then there were even more. I mean, you could put in the M4A1, and maybe even the Scar L. I might put that more in the Slayer category. But anyway, there were just a wider variety of guns. I mentioned two heavy moving guns, the AK-47 and the CM901. Even though I classify those the same, they were a lot different. Like the way that those two guns worked were so much different, and it just really added a lot more variety to the game, I think. And the way that these guns were so much different really helped out, whereas in Black Ops 2, these guns just really aren't that much different. And that's been sort of a Treyarch problem for Black Ops and Black Ops 2. In Black Ops, I mentioned the FAMAS and its little brothers. That wasn't just to say that the other guns were not as good as the FAMAS. A lot of the guns really felt the exact same. It felt like almost all you were changing was maybe a little bit of fire rate and some damage. You go from the FAMAS to the AUG. It just really felt like even the iron sights were the same. So I mean, it just felt like it was the same gun. Now they've definitely improved on that into Black Ops 2, but I still think that there are issues of the same type of issues where these guns just aren't different enough in this movers category. Now I don't want to act like I'm just crapping all over Black Ops 2 here. Especially over this last Double XP weekend, aside from the connections, I really have started to enjoy this game.